Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Smashing Pumpkins frontman Billy Corgan has been an outspoken opponent of the anti-free speech movement taking root here in America. He made a return visit to the Alex Jones show this week with a dire warning about the rising social justice warrior mob mentality.
Once we lose free speech in this country, forget it. It won't matter what we think.
When Drudge visited, he said, look, they're coming after free speech next year. This is next year.
I was listening that day, and I think that was probably one of the most important moments in the history of your broadcasting. Because that shows you that he sees something, you see something, and together it's like that, you know what they call that multiplier. 1 × 1 = 100. You and Drudge on even the same wavelength, even if you guys don't agree about a lot of stuff, you guys on the same wavelength, that's the power. That's the force multiplier.
Huge amplification.
Right, but what is the common stitch there? Free speech. Once we give up free speech in this country, it is over.
So, of course, whenever we do a big interview like this, it gets picked up by other media outlets instantly. Typically, they'll dissect it and try to tie people into conspiracy theorists. Now, of course, these outlets did use inflammatory words in order to bait people into their articles. Like, for instance, they all seem to have the same headline. Billy Corgan compares social justice warriors to the KKK. Many outlets were surprisingly fair with Corgan's take. Now, if Billy had talked about the threat of social justice warrior mob mentality even a year ago, he would have caught a lot of flack. But instead of scrutinizing everything that was said, large chunks of the conversation are actually left in verbatim, like here in this Pitchfork article, for instance. And this allows the reader to actually decide for themselves if there might be some merit to this discussion taking place rather than just outright telling them that it's racist. Now, it's the same with Rolling Stone, who did a particularly fair piece. They actually quoted some of the key points Corgan brought up, not just those that could be spun out of context to suit some agenda. Is the media finally beginning to recognize the very real threat to free speech that's posed by social justice warriors? I mean, they've been giving them front page splash news for the last year, but they're finally starting to see that that might not have been such a good idea. They're starting to see the writing on the wall. Just look at how free speech has been threatened in just the past few months. We've seen a reporter being kicked out of a safe space, sidewalk chalk being banned from universities, spitting in people's faces, controversial speakers and iconic comedians are refusing to perform at universities lest the social justice mobs take them out. We've seen people starting riots to shut down political rallies. And of course, there's the Kill Donald Trump rap song that's making the rounds. Now, of course, you still have some media outlets that want to cater to the social justice mob mentality for the clicks. Here in this site that's too irrelevant as to remain unnamed, they say Billy Corgan is scared of the hashtag generation going after his free speech. And of course, they use some unsavory language there to describe Alex Jones. And in another article here, and they point out how Alex Jones is the guy who led the 9/11 is an inside job conspiracy theorist. Hello, have you picked up a newspaper in the past few days? Well, I think we're all going to find out just how high up in the government the 9/11 conspiracy actually goes. But I digress. So, of course, these hit pieces are saying whiny Billy Corgan is just likening himself to people of color during the civil rights movement. But that's not what he's saying at all. He's pointing out that if you need to use fascist tactics to hammer down your ideology, then perhaps you need to take a look in the mirror. The Red Guards thought they were on the right side of history too. I'm sure the Stasi did as well. And yeah, the Klansmen probably thought their ideology needed to spit in someone's face. And then it goes on to point out how it's ironic that Billy Corgan and Alex Jones want to shut down these social justice warriors' free speech when they're calling for free speech, but that's not what they're saying at all. They're not telling these people that they need to shut up. What they're saying is using fascist tactics to force everybody else to shut up is un-American, and the country needs dialogue. We have to talk about controversial topics in order to evolve, not a totalitarian shutdown of anything that might make someone uncomfortable. And this writer makes the argument that Donald Trump's free speech wasn't suppressed because the protesters that shut down his rally weren't age agents of the state, but that's exactly what they are. That's what cultural Marxism produces, little agents of the state that go out policing everyone's speech. And here's the problem when it comes to banning offensive speech. Who gets to decide what is offensive and what is not? You see, in the case of Twitter, it's just a merry band of social justice warriors who, of course, make sure any anti-feminist sites are shut down while the kill all men hashtag trends into the ether. Now, yesterday I asked Billy Corgan what he thought about this double standard when it comes to censorship.
You have to start by identifying that the most powerful thing in the world right now are these technocratic systems that are in place, search engines, the way we connect on these social platforms. Governments have either encouraged these things to come along or quickly realizes that they were the new arms of control. And so you have to ask yourself whether your participation in these systems is actually enslaving you. Then you have to drill down a little further and you have to want to ask questions about if what you're doing and participating in is truly as open as it seems. So if Twitter, for example, is full of people of a diversity of opinions and you feel like, hey, it's capitalist, it's my idea versus yours, who tweets more, who gets more retweets, who says the right incendiary thing, who does the right mean, great. That's America, great. And I would only argue, where do you cross the line? And you see it all the time. I mean, Infowars puts up articles. As somebody who's in the world, and I have to watch what I say, when you see a page that's literally, and the Facebook page is assassinate Donald Trump, and I believe Facebook comes out and says that doesn't violate our standards and practices. Yeah. Okay, that's where somebody like myself has to ask, is my participation in the Facebook system, and I would call it a system, am I actually encouraging something which as an American I find offensive? Mm-hmm. And I also find it offensive that a business would support, you can call, I would have no problem with the page that said, Donald Trump's a racist, Donald Trump's a homophobe, because that's just opinion. The minute you talk about killing someone, sorry, that's where you need to step in as a business, say, I will not support that. So why is that okay? But you can imagine what page you could create on Facebook today, and there would be calls for you to never work here at Infowars ever again.
Right.
That's where it gets funky. So you have to be sophisticated enough to look at those systems and say, is my participation encouraging something that I know deep down is intrinsically not only flawed, but counterintuitive to what I want to be part of?
So be on the lookout for more excerpts from that interview coming next week. Billy Corgan delivers some illuminating commentary on the anti-free speech movement here in the United States, as well as many more bombshell topics. So that's coming your way in the coming days. I'm Leanne McAdoo reporting for the Infowars Nightly News.
Get Brainforce at 25% off for a limited time at InfowarsLife.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been on this the last few months. You probably noticed I've been more crazed, more focused, less brain fog, more energy, more special reports, and it's because of Brainforce.
One of the worst things with most energy products is it's not sustainable, right? You're going to crash afterwards. And the cool thing about this is it's not just a bunch of energy compounds that are going to fire your brain up to a higher RPM or whatever, which it does do. This is sustainable. This isn't going to spike and you're going to collapse and you're going to feel really bad afterwards. This has a bunch of different antioxidants and compounds and polyphenols.
Everybody's on these drugs to knock their brain out because the brain's so fried.
We're looking at the television screen for research purposes or whatever we're even doing, trying to learn something, or staring at the computer all day, working, doing good. You're still damaging your brain.
You will find Brainforce and other game-changing products at InfowarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.
Get Brainforce at 25% off for a limited time at InfowarsLife.com. And we thank you for your support.